Hey everyone, it's Lexi. So in today's video, I'll be sharing with you my crime book series recommendations. When I first started out really getting into reading, when towards the end of my high school into early university undergrad, I really gravitated towards crime, murder mysteries, and then also historical fiction as well. So these are the books that I really or series I should say, that I really want to highlight. I feel like these are, a great introduction into the genre, or ones that are, I think, really stand out amongst all the ones that I've read. These are the ones that I keep, either am still reading the new releases, or these are the ones that I look back that'd be like, wow, this series really got me into that genre. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So I feel like we need to start out with the book that really started my love for this genre. And we, when we were living in Chicago, when we first moved to the United States, there was this really small bookshop in town, and the bookseller recommended this series to me when I went in with my mom. And it would be to the point where I would, read the book one week, and then on Fridays my mom and I would walk into town from my school to pick up the next book in the series. So the series is very near and dear to my heart, and it is the Rizzoli Isles series by Tess Gerritsen. This is one of many books. I think it's she's kind of somewhat done now. I know a new book came out maybe a few years ago, but I would say this series is kind of wrapped up, so you can really definitely marathon this series. But basically the premise of this series overall is that it follows Jane Rizzoli, who is a homicide detective in the Boston PD, and Dr. Mara Isles, who is the medical examiner. You may have recognized the name from the TV series that went on for several years, but the TV series is loosely based off of this. This book series is very dark, and the characters are very different from the TV show, so just be forewarned. But this one is great. Tess Gerritsen is a physician, so a lot of the medical terminology, all the stuff that Mara Isles, the medical examiner, is saying is very accurate, and it's really interesting kind of reading from someone with a medical background. But besides that, what I really love about this series, and as it progresses throughout the kind of course of the series, is I loved the characters, I loved the dynamic. We definitely see their relationship between Rizzoli and Isles really grow over the years and in the series. And I reread this series maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and it holds up well. I really enjoyed it. The books are super suspenseful, they're very unique. There's some that keep you on the edge of your seat, or just give you that kind of eerie feeling. So I think that's a testament to her great writing and her character dynamics. And then again, this is the one that really got me into reading. I would read the book in a week, and then I'd go to the bookstore and get the next one on Fridays. That's how invested I was in this series. I love the wide variety of kind of crimes or murder mysteries that take place, really outside the box. One involves a nun, one involves an African safari, something involves Chinatown. It's just very broad in terms of what the different crimes are. So I highly recommend this series. I think this is a really good kind of introduction book to really kind of get into the genre. And like I said, this series is just kind of near and dear to my heart. Next, I have the Tracey Crosswhite series by Dugoni. This is, again, another series that is ongoing, and it follows Tracey Crosswhite, who was, previously a teacher, but when she was younger, her sister ended up disappearing, and she never found out what happened to her sister. So that kind of motivates her to become a police officer, specifically a homicide detective. So this first book really deals with her sister's disappearance kind of in present day, after it's kind of been a cold case. Something comes up that is very eerily similar to her sister's disappearance, and it kind of reopens that can of worms. But the other series kind of diverge a little bit. But I think having a main character who has such sadness in her backstory, I think creates such a very motivating and compelling character. Tracey's very motivated and driven, and in a very kind of male dominated field. So it's really, especially over these, 8 to 10 books. We definitely see her grow and evolve, and it's really fun kind of seeing her tackle different challenges in her life and different milestones. So she's definitely a character that you can really root for. Again, this one is really suspenseful, and I've enjoyed all the books in the series so far, so I recommend this one as well. Like, I think there is Tracey just has such a compelling backstory that you can't help to be, not be invested in her, experience and her stories. Next, this is hands down my favorite series of all time, not only in the crime genre, but just in all books overall. And if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know what this book is. And it is the kind of Inspector Gamache series by Louise Penny, the first book being Still Life. This, again, like I said, is my favorite crime series. Like this, these series, despite dealing with murder mysteries, violence, feel like home. But basically the premise of this series is we follow Inspector Gamache, who's head of the homicide department in Quebec, and a lot of his, crimes, the first one in particular, involved this very quaint, kind of quirky town, think like Stars Hollow characters, in a small town called Three Pines, and it kind of goes from there. I would say the first book is a little bit different than the rest of the series. It wasn't until maybe the second or third book that I think the author gets her footing, she figures out the characters, and you just really get invested, and I love this series. I think there's like 20 books out, or the 20th book is coming out this year, and it is honestly such a highlight to read this series. All of the characters, like, there's this sense of found family. All the characters are so quirky. The banter between them is just hilarious, but despite, like I said, having such dark moments dealing with, violence and murder, there really is a sense of found family and home, and love is very much a kind of prominent theme in here. And what is really great about this series is because it spans so many novels, some of the storylines or narration that are kind of in the background are, evolve over the span of many books. So things might be mentioned, in the earlier books, but and are eventually building to the point where a book focuses on them, but it takes there's a lot of overarching narratives throughout the series, so it keeps it really interesting and fun. And there's just something so heartwarming about this. Even the way it's written, I can feel like I'm at the bistro with these characters, with the roaring fire and the sights and smells, and I can taste the food. There's something so incredibly gripping with this series and atmospheric, and I think that's where this series shines. I'm losing my words, I'm so excited about it. But despite having such dark subject matter, there really are a lot of light moments in this series, and I think that's why it's just, near and dear to my heart. Next, I have the Sydney Parnell series by Barbara Nicholas. I think there are maybe 4 or 5 books in this series. There hasn't really been anything recently by this author, so I feel like this, even despite having a short amount of books in the series, I think this one really stands out. It follows Sydney Parnell, who is kind of the police investigator for a railroad company, and she is also a kind of former vet from Afghanistan, and she has a canine companion police dog named Clyde, and her murder mysteries kind of go there. I think what makes this series stand out is not only the dynamics of Sydney, who's dealing with PTSD, has suffered a tremendous loss and having to kind of go through the experience of being in war. She's still really grappling with those horrors, so she's, again, a complex, dynamic, really compelling character with, again, an interesting backstory, but then factoring in, a really fun and unique murder mysteries, especially with the railroad setting, really creates a kind of fun, unique, premise. And then also having the canine companion named Clyde, I think also just makes it a lot of fun. Even though, again, it's kind of suspenseful, it is dark, but again, it kind of has that really compelling character arc and dynamic, and then also kind of adding in the little canine companion makes it really fun as well. So this is a series that I was really into, but again, there hasn't really been anything else about this series, but I definitely really love it, and it really is a standout for me. It's one that I don't hear people talk about, and I feel like this is just like a hidden gem, and I think it's definitely worth the read. And lastly, I have the Kate Marshall series by Robert Brenzida, and this is a series that is relatively new, but is still ongoing, and it follows Kate Marshall, who previously was a kind of renowned police detective, and she's most famously known for taking down the Nine Elms like serial killer. And what should have been the highlight of her career ends up being a catastrophic downfall when it's revealed that she previously was in a relationship with this serial killer. So she kind of has a fall from grace. The media rips her apart, and even though it's like, you know, like 15-16 years after the fact, she's still really kind of dealing with the aftermath of that and still trying to pick up the pieces of what happened. And so she is a kind of criminology professor in this small quaint town and kind of just lives a very quiet, secluded life until there are a string of, you know, murders taking place that have very specific details related to the Nine Elms killings that weren't revealed to the public. And so she kind of inadvertently gets involved with this kind of murder mystery, and it kind of goes from there. I think Kate has such a, again, complex and dynamic background that makes her a very compelling protagonist to read from, and I really like how the author makes her very flawed. She's not perfect. She has a lot of issues that she's trying to deal with, and she doesn't always make the best decisions, but you can't help but root for her and want the best for her. And yeah, this series is just really interesting, and because she's not necessarily a police officer, she kind of gets more of like the private investigator. All the other ones are like dealing with law enforcement. This one is kind of the PI route, so it's a little bit different, and I think that creates for a little bit of an interesting you know, way to kind of go about these murder mysteries, especially because you kind of have to, they can kind of toe the line between, you know, what is legally allowed and stuff like that. So it's really interesting, and again, seeing Kate's kind of growth over the 4 or so books that are out makes it a really fun, you know, series to read, and definitely, again, one that I don't hear people talk about. So that is it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what some of your favorite kind of crime series, crime books are, and all of that fun stuff. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.